Hello, my name is Dr. Dan Wedding, and this is DrWedding VB05, Variables, Math, and Error Checking. Variables are storage containers for data. These containers are unique to the data being stored in them. For example, an egg carton is customized to holding eggs, and a milk jug is customized to holding milk. If you put milk in the egg carton, or put eggs in a milk jug, you're going to have a mess. To prevent a mess, you must tell the compiler what kind of containers you need. When you do this, it is called declaring the variable. There are many types of variables, too many to teach in a series of videos for beginners. In this video, you will learn how to create common variable types. The procedure for declaring a variable is the same for all variable types. Once you understand how to declare a variable, you will know how to declare any type of variable. The following 4 variable types are among the most commonly used variables for beginners. An integer is a 32-bit signed number. This number can hold whole numbers but can't hold a decimal point. A double is a 64-bit signed number. This number can hold the whole number and the decimal point. A character is a 16-bit unsigned number. It holds a number that represents characters, letters, and symbols. The number that corresponds to the symbol was originally a 7-bit code called ASCII. ASCII was later expanded to 8 bits, but was never standardized. It was finally expanded to 16 bits to cover letters and symbols from other languages. The 16-bit code is now called Unicode. A Boolean is stored in different ways on different systems. No matter how it is implemented, it can only store true or false. There's a lot more information about these 4 basic variable types that will not be covered at this time. This video will not cover information such as the range of the variables, how the range changes when the variables are unsigned, and how the number of bits changes the range of the variables. There are many more variable types that will not be covered in this video. Some examples of skipped variable types are byte, long, single, date, decimal, sbyte, int16, int32, int64, and many more. How and where you declare a variable changes what subroutines and forms have access to the variable. This is a very complicated topic and will be greatly simplified in this video. In a later video, this will be covered in greater detail. First, where a variable is declared will determine what code has access to the variable. We will be learning 2 different scopes in this video. A variable has module scope when it is declared outside of the subroutines. This type of variable is shared by all the subroutines. This is similar to a library book that everyone has access to. If someone rips the cover, then everyone will see the ripped cover. A variable has procedure scope when it is declared inside of a subroutine. When a variable is declared inside of a subroutine, only that subroutine has access to it. This type of variable is similar to a book you purchase for yourself. You and only you can use it. Secondly, the access level can also change what code has access to the variable. The access level is determined by a word at the start of the declaration. Access levels can be changed by declaring a variable using public, protected, friend, protected friend, private, private protected, and dim. In this video, I will only be demonstrating the dim command. VB follows the order of operations. You can remember the order of operations from the simple sentence, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." Please stands for parentheses, excuse stands for exponents, my dear stands for multiply and divide from left to right, and Aunt Sally stands for add and subtract from left to right. Just like when you assigned a property to an object, the source was on the right of the equal sign, and the destination was on the left of the equal sign. Because the equal sign is an assignment, it does not follow the same rules as an equal sign in algebra. The compiler will evaluate the source, the right side of the equal sign, first, and then store the answer in the destination, the left side of the equal sign. To prevent crashes, you will use the try-catch to handle exceptions. The code you want to run goes under the try. The code that runs when an error is encountered is under the catch. A lot of this will be clarified with an example, so let's get started. I have already opened the project and created a form. It is assumed you understand how to do this already. If you do not know how to open a new project, create a form, and change the properties, then please go back and watch the previous videos. To enter the code section of the project, I just need to double-click on any of the buttons. So I'll double-click on Read and Echo. Now I'm going to declare some variables. To declare a variable, we're going to start with the word dim, and next, the variable names. I'm going to use a convention where the first 3 letters of the variable name will tell you what type of variable it is. I'm going to create an integer, so I will start with int. Next, I will give the variable a name. Next, I'm going to use the word as. And finally, the variable type. In this case, I'm going to make this an integer. This variable is declared outside of the subroutine. Therefore, this is a modular level variable. That means any and all subroutines will have access to this variable. I can create as many variables as I wish. If I want to create more than one variable at a time, just add a comma between the variable names. I've now created 3 different variables: an integer called int_radius, a double named dbl_radius, and another double variable called dbl_area. Sometimes programmers will have had a different programming language before learning Visual Basic, and they will sometimes refer to these types of variables as global variables. This is not completely accurate, so I'm trying to avoid using the word global. When a variable is declared inside of a subroutine, it becomes a procedural variable. These are also known as local variables. The procedure is exactly the same: dim, variable name, as, integer. Now that we've created the variables, let's put them to use. We'll start off with the Read Echo button, and we'll read in a value from the first text box. To do this, we'll use the equal sign, or the assignment. Again, the first value is the destination, where we want to put the value. We want to put it in the local variable I. It's going to get its information from the text box read1. However, text box read1 has a lot of different properties, so we have to specify which property it's getting its information from. We're going to get that from the text property. Again, the destination is first and the source is second. Moving a value from variable to variable is just as easy. I'm going to move the value into int_radius that is currently stored in I. Sending the information back out to a text box is just as easy. Again, the destination is first, and in this case it will be the text box. It will go in the text property, and it will get what is in int_radius. Let's run this program and see what happens. When I type in an integer, such as 5, and hit the Read Echo button, it'll read the 5 from the first text box named text read1, bring it into the integer I. I will then be copied into int radius, and then int radius will be rewritten back out to the second text box named text write 1. This works because I'm reading an integer into an integer variable. If I try to read a character into an integer variable, the program will crash. And it's telling me that I can't put the letter A into an integer. So I'm going to have to stop the program and figure out how to avoid a crash. To avoid a crash, we're going to use the try catch. To create a try catch, just type the word try and hit enter. Now move the code you want to protect into the try. If something in the try causes the program to crash, it will stop the program and move to the catch. I'm going to go back to the form and add another text box to show you what can be done. And this text box will be named error. If you notice the catch, it has EX as exception. This should look somewhat like declaring a variable, and that's because it is. The variable that's being declared is EX. EX is a special type of variable. It's an exception. It can hold the error message and let you know what happened. So in the catch, I'm going to write the error message to the error text box. Again, destination first, into the text property. I'm going to load in EX. But there are many different things that I can use from the EX variable. I'm going to use the message. Now when I run the program and type in an incorrect value and hit read and echo, the program no longer crashes, but tells me that I cannot convert the letter A into an integer. Whenever you're reading a value in from the screen, doing math, or anything that you think might cause the program to crash, you should always run it inside of a try catch. Now that you understand how to create a variable, get a value from a text box and store it in a variable, and take a value that's in a variable and put it out on a text box, we can start doing some calculations. Now I'm going to clean up the screen and open up the second subroutine so we can write another piece of code. This subroutine is going to calculate the area of a circle given a radius. Because I'm going to be reading values in from a text box, as well as doing mathematics, I'm going to start off with a try catch. Next, I'm going to read in the radius from the text box. At this point, we can start doing our calculations. Just like all the other times we've used the equal sign, we start with the destination. The destination is going to be our answer, and it's going to be stored in dBl area. It will be equal to the value that's calculated by the computer on the right side of the equal sign. The equation for finding the area of a circle is pi times radius squared. As you can see, multiplication is represented by the asterisk, and raising something to a power is done with a caret. In this example, dBl radius is squared, or raised to the second power. Now that I have calculated the area, I can put it out in the text box. I also want to put something in the catch. If you leave the catch blank and something goes wrong, you're not going to know what's going on. So you have to give yourself some kind of indication that you've actually hit the catch. As before, I'm just going to dump the error message into the text error box. Let's run this program and see what happens. When I type in a radius, for example 2.25, and I hit the area of a circle button, the value on the text box will be stored in dBl radius. That number will be squared and then multiplied by pi. That value will be stored in double area, and the next line will take double area and write it out to the text box. Visual Basic does follow the order of operations. However, sometimes I like to add parentheses just to make the equation clear. You may have noticed when the value was printed to the text box, there were 4 decimal places. You can control the number of decimal places that are displayed using a command called format number. To format the number of decimal places, type in format number and put a set of parentheses that will enclose the variable you want to format, followed by a comma and the number of decimal places you want it to display. In this case, 2. Now when the program is run, and we type in a value such as 3.5, it will only display 2 decimal points. Again, I'm going to clean up the screen a little bit. Now that the screen's cleaned up a little bit, I'm going to introduce another variable. This variable is going to be pi. Instead of using 3.14, I'm going to use a constant. A constant looks like a variable, but it can't be changed. To create a constant, it works just like a variable. However, instead of using dim, we're going to use const. Const pi as double equals 3.14. You'll notice that I capitalized both letters of pi. There's a convention that when you have a constant in any language, every letter in the name is capitalized. Now I can just use pi in the equation. Because pi is a constant, if I try to change its value, I will get an error message. You can see that pi is underlined in red. A red underline is an error in Visual Basic. You can see that I've used double radius in both subroutines. That's because it is a modular level variable and all subroutines have access to this variable. If I try to use the variable I that's local to button read echo, and I try to use it in button read alter echo, I will also get an error. Just like before, the underlined red value is telling you that you have an error. In review, a variable is a memory location that acts as a container to hold information that is used by the program. Declaring is the act of creating a variable so it can be used in a program. Declaring a variable outside of the subroutines creates a variable that is modular in scope, and it is shared among the subroutines. Declaring a variable inside of a subroutine creates a variable with procedural scope, and it can only be used by the subroutine where it is declared. The scope of a variable can be changed by what word is used to declare it. For simplicity, dim will be used for now. The common variable types used by beginners are integer. This variable type can only hold a number and can't hold a decimal point. Double. This variable can hold a whole number and the decimal point. Character. This variable type can hold a letter or symbol. Boolean. This variable type can hold true or false. A constant can be used like a variable to prevent a typo when programming a complicated value. These are used when you do not want to accidentally change a value that should never change. Constants are normally all capital letters. VB follows the order of operations. You can remember the order of operations from the simple sentence, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." Please stands for parentheses, and parentheses are evaluated first. Excuse stands for exponents, and these are evaluated second. My dear stands for multiply and divide from left to right, and these are evaluated third. Aunt Sally stands for add and subtract from left to right, and these are evaluated fourth. The destination is on the left, and the source is on the right. There are many ways to format a value that is displayed on a text box or label. The first format that was discussed was the command to format a variable to a specified number of decimal points. Format number is past the value you want to format and the number of decimal places you wish to display. The default is 4 digits. To prevent an error from crashing the program, a try-catch can be used. Put the code you are writing under the try. Put the code you want to run if there is a problem under the catch, and the end try lets the program identify the end of the try-catch. If you find these videos useful, please like and subscribe. It is the only way I can continue to make these videos.